What's all the buzz about? Chatterbees.
An awful man humiliates his girlfriend in public, but a helpful hotel employee helps her get revenge. Breakups are never easy, but throw in a public place, an audience of terrible people, and an evil ex, and you have the makings for nuclear drama. Before we dive into today's captivating story, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell. If you've ever encountered a challenging situation like the one we're about to explore, share your experiences in the comments below. Your engagement keeps these stories coming, so let's build a community together. Now let's jump into this jaw-dropping tale of revenge and karma. It all started on a normal night at a luxury hotel when an employee got an unusual request from a guest. I worked as a front desk agent in a large luxury hotel chain for some years. One particular hotel I worked at was located really close to the downtown area, and we got a large number of young, very wealthy business people who loved to party. I was working at the desk when a group of young, well-dressed men came walking in. They had all clearly been drinking, but weren't so drunk that they couldn't walk straight and hold a conversation. One of them came up to me and told me that while he and his friends were at the bar, a woman was hitting on him, and even though he told her no multiple times, she wouldn't stop. So he and his friends left, and it wasn't until they got in the Uber that he realized he didn't have his room key anymore. He thought she took it, and he was concerned that she may come up to his room. He asked that I deactivate his keys, and if she does come up to the hotel, to not let her in. Immediately, the front desk worker was suspicious of the man and his story, but still deactivated the keys. When he told me all of this, it didn't sit right with me. He and his friends were all grinning about it and snickering amongst each other. Then he gave a clear description of her without being asked. He told me her height, body shape, hair color, style, and the kind of dress she wore, all in a mocking tone. Now, this could have easily been because he thought the whole thing was ridiculous, or he was too drunk to take it seriously, but it really didn't sound right to me. Either way, I did as I was trained in that situation. I pulled up his reservation, deactivated the keys as requested, made him a new set when he showed me his ID, and even offered to move him to a new room if that would make him feel more comfortable. He and his buddies all laughed a little at that. He declined, took the keys, and he went to his room. Later that night, the woman arrived only to discover she was locked out of the hotel room. About an hour or so later, the woman he described showed up. Just as I walked out of the back office with my bag and was about to leave, I saw my coworker buzz the doors open and the woman came rushing in, cut through the lobby and down the hall to the elevators. She was barefoot, holding her heels in her hands, and knew exactly where she was going. I rushed up to him and told him what the man from before had told me about her. My coworker looked at me confused. He then pointed to the screen that had the reservation pulled up and told me that when the woman arrived, she went to use the room keys and they didn't work. So he asked for her room number and last name. Her name was on the reservation. I looked at the reservation and down in the notes, there was a woman's name listed. The man from before was listed as the primary, but her name was listed as secondary with his consent to be in the room. The front desk clerk was confused by the situation, so she called the man to clarify and got a condescending response. I was confused. I thought maybe she wasn't the same woman he was talking about. But to be on the safe side, I called the man in his room and told him the situation and that we allowed a woman, fitting that description he gave, to enter the building because she confirmed her name was on the room. He laughed, said he forgot her name was on the room and asked that I remove it. I was now super confused. Me: Sir, just to be clear, the woman you met at the bar tonight was with you at check-in hours ago and was allowed keys then, but now she is not? Him: laughs to all his friends in the room. "Oh, guys, I confused the poor girl." Gets back on the phone with me. "Yeah, sweetheart, she's banned from the room. Don't worry about the other details. Just take her name off." Me: I see. Then if she isn't going to be in the room anymore, would you like us to call the police and have her removed from the property? Him: ha ha ha! Whoa, that's too far there. Don't worry, she'll get the hint soon enough. It turns out the woman was his girlfriend, and he callously broke up with her in front of his friends just to humiliate her. A short time later, the woman came off the elevator crying while on the phone with someone. She sat down in our lobby, and my coworker and I tried to look busy while eavesdropping hard on her phone call. She sobbed on the phone to her mom and sister. From what she told them, she was invited out to spend the week with her boyfriend to meet all of his old college buddies. This being their first night, they all met up for dinner and drinks. After a bit, she went to the restroom, and when she came back, she caught her boyfriend hitting on another woman. His friends all bet that he wouldn't do it. When she confronted him pissed off, he called her a bunch of names and humiliated her in front of his friends and the entire bar. The evil ex called her nothing without him and stranded her at a bar with no money. His friends joined in on mocking her, and he threw in her face that she was nothing without him and dumped her right there. They then took an Uber back and left her stranded at the bar with no money and no way back. She had to use her phone's GPS and walk back to the hotel from the bar, barefoot. She had heels, and walking 2 miles in those was not going to cut it. She asked her mom and sister for help as he wouldn't let her in the room to get her luggage or her wallet. The front desk clerk tried to help the poor woman whose belongings were locked in her ex's hotel room. My heart broke. I felt horrible. I helped this guy treat this poor woman like crap in our lobby, sobbing and with nothing. I went over to our snack area in the lobby, grabbed her a bottled water, and brought it to her. I told her that I couldn't help but overhear the conversation and was very sorry for her situation and asked if she would like us to help. I informed her that if he was keeping her from getting to her things, we could call the police and have them force him to hand them over so she could leave. Or if she wanted to let her mom or sister pay for a room, we'd be happy to give her a very low rate in a room far from him. The clerk then discovered that the woman paid for the room, not her evil ex. She thanked me, took the water, and tried to calm down and talk to me about what all was happening and what her options were. Eventually, we decided on her staying in the hotel for the night and figured out the rest in the morning. As we made it to the desk, she asked me to try and run her credit card to see if it has enough on it for another room. I asked her what she meant by another room, and she told me that she actually paid for the room he was in. She said his name was on the room because he booked it, but it was her card that paid for everything. It turns out the horrible ex didn't have a dime and was living off his ex, the same ex he just threw out of the hotel. This intrigued me. I asked why she paid for the room if it was in his name. She told me that she was the one with a job, not him. That he hadn't been able to find a job in his field since graduating from college and was essentially living off his parents' money. But just after they started dating, his parents cut him off, so he's been living off her money. That's why she was so upset and confused by how he had been acting all night. He was sweet back home, but since he met up with his friends, he did a 180. A plan of sweet, sweet revenge was formed. I wanted to tell her that it was obvious he was using her for the money and that he would probably blame his friends for all of this and try to get back with her later on. But I doubted she would have listened to me or cared for a stranger to butt in on her personal life like that. So instead, I offered up a sweet piece of revenge. I informed her that, considering she was the one who paid for the room, if she were indeed able to prove she paid for the room, then I'd be more than happy to provide for her the largest luxury upgrade we offered at our property. Considering how poorly her night had been, this would be the largest suite we had, full hotel amenity access. I'd even have my coworker fish out a bottle of champagne and some fresh strawberries for her to have sent to her room, all free of charge. She was taken aback by the offer and was sincerely tempted. She looked like she was about to say no. Then I told her that since she would be upgrading her room, that would require moving her things from that room and into her new one, which meant the room that she was listed in would need to be vacated immediately. If anyone were to remain in the room after we demanded it be vacated, we were required to have them escorted off the property unless they paid for the room. Their choice. She thought about it, pulled up her card's banking app and showed me the screen. The woman checked out of her room and into her new suite while her awful ex was kicked to the curb. I quickly upgraded her, moved everything over in the system, and before I could say a word to my coworker, he was already grabbing a set of master keys, a bell card, and was asking her what her luggage looked like since he would be the one retrieving it for her to deliver to her room. He didn't want her to have to deal with her ex again. She smiled and told him which ones were hers and that she hadn't unpacked yet. My coworker fetched her things while I made a new set of keys and sent her off to her new room. Once she was on the elevator, my phone at the desk rang. It was the ex-boyfriend, and he was very angry about why my coworker had entered the room and was taking her things. I calmly explained that I cannot give out the private information of any of our guests and that if he would like to remain in his room, he will need to pay for it, as there is no longer a method of payment on his room. He blew up. Needless to say, the evil ex flipped out and made a huge scene. He began making a ton of demands and at the same time yelling at my coworker to stop what he was doing. But it was obvious from the way he was yelling at him that my coworker wasn't listening to him. I could hear the guy's friends telling him to chill out and just pay for the room. I then explained that we would give him a courtesy 10 minutes to make a decision, at which point, if he didn't have payment ready, he must vacate the building or we would be forced to call the authorities and have him evicted. He continued to yell at me. He screamed, swore, threatened, and yelled for a solid minute before taking a breath. I then told him he had 9 minutes remaining and asked if he had come to a decision yet. He hung up on me. The clerk ends up calling the police to have the lout removed from the premises. 9 minutes later, I called the room and he didn't answer. I called again, no answer. I called a third time. He picked up, then immediately hung up the phone. I called the police and told them what was going on, and they said they were on their way. The officers arrived and we went up to the room together. The man and his friends were white as ghosts when they saw the cops. The cops explained to the ex-boyfriend and his friends that they were being evicted. The ex-boyfriend tried to talk to me, but the cops stopped him and told him to only talk to them. I told him about his attitude on the phone before. The friends were all offering to pay for the room at this point, and the cops looked to me and asked if that would be acceptable. I smile very sweetly and say no. The cops nodded and rushed all of the guys to grab their things and leave the room. The ex was the last one out the door carrying his 2 bags and complaining that he wasn't even given a luggage cart and had to carry his own things. His friends all looked pissed at him. The awful ex is out on the street. His former girlfriend is in a beautiful suite and karma was served in full. I went with the officers to escort all of them out of the building and ran into my coworker in the lobby. He waited until they were all outside in the parking lot to tell me that the woman was in her new room, loved it, and said no to the champagne. She just wanted to sleep. I didn't get to see her before she left town the next day, but the ex-boyfriend did try calling our hotel to complain a number of times and even tried leaving some bad reviews about us online, lying through all of it. I hope she doesn't have to ever deal with him again. What a roller coaster of emotions. The hotel employee, our hero in this story, went above and beyond to help the ex-girlfriend turn the tables and get the sweet revenge she deserved. It's a powerful reminder that kindness and empathy can triumph over cruelty, and sometimes karma has a way of serving justice when we least expect it. In the end, the awful ex found himself out on the street while his former girlfriend enjoyed a luxurious suite, proving that treating others with respect and decency is always the better choice. Remember, folks, what goes around comes around. Share your thoughts on this story in the comments below. And if you've ever encountered a similar situation, we'd love to hear how you handled it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more captivating tales. Until next time, stay kind, stay strong, and may karma be your ally.